Let's talk about Nicolas Sarkozy.
Was he the president of the 127th French Republic?
128th French Republic. Yeah. So one of the first things I'll say is that he if anyone doesn't know, he was the president of France from 2007 to 2012. Now, some people that are young, if you're in your early 20s or even mid 20s, you was a little kid, you probably not really heard of him, don't know, it was before your time, sort of thing. Or if you're foreign, you might not have ever cared. But he was the French president. Okay. And now he has gone to prison. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. And that's unheard of. I mean, Pétain went to prison after World War II for being a Nazi collaborator, but he doesn't really count.
How long did he stay?
Oh, I don't know. He's a really, really old man. I can't remember. But anyway, he doesn't count as a special case, really. So in the normal run of things, the head of state very, very, very rarely goes to prison, right? Very rarely. Like someone like Nixon, gets a pardon from Ford. Someone like Boris Johnson, there's no question of him going to prison. Someone like Bill Clinton or whatever. It's just if you're in the top job, it's very, very, very rare that you end up going to prison. But Sarkozy did. So I just want to talk a bit about it because it's been in the news a fair bit over the last week or two, and Lotus haven't done anything on it. And I find it interesting. I find it fascinating. I remember all the Sarkozy years. I was already sort of deep into my adulthood at this point. I mean, do you remember much about those times?
Which times?
Well, 2007 to 2012.
I mean, depends. I was 11 to 16 years old.
Right. I mean, do you remember?
I remember.
I remember.
I was busy at school.
Do you remember when Cameron and Sarkozy were bombing Libya and Gaddafi got lynched?
I was not paying attention to the media at the time, but I do know that happened in that.
Right. Were you bombing Libya in a war game or something?
It was literally me. I was the one pressing the big red button.
So I just want to run through the story because it's quite a big, long saga, really. A bit of a long story. Just try and explain it for people that might be interested in it. Okay, so Sarkozy's been in and around French politics for years and years. He was like an interior minister long before he was ever the actual full-blown president. And quite often that he gets described as centre-right. I mean, he's a bit more right-leaning than most French socialist politicians, but still, he's not really, really right-wing, but they describe him as centre-right all the time. So you can say something, Stelios?
No, I've heard conflicting report about him exiling a particular community.
Really?
Yeah, but I've also heard the other French people saying that he actually didn't. About travelers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know much about that.
Yeah.
He got rid of gypsies, you mean?
Yeah, I think some say he got rid of gypsies, and then others said that they came back and he did nothing.
Oh, right.
And now we have all this video with French farmers spraying them manure.
Well, so anyway, to stay specific to this thing. So he's actually been convicted 3 times of criminal things. Right, back in 2021, he was convicted of basically corruption, a type of corruption, sort of interfering with a judge in his own case, which he really shouldn't have done. He got convicted of that and got sentenced to like 2 or 3 years, but like a suspended sentence. And then again in 2023, he got convicted of a similar sort of corruption type dealio, an old scandal. Again, he was supposed to serve a year in prison, but they said you don't have to actually go to prison until your appeal is done. And that can take years, right? That's how appeals shit works often, isn't it? You can draw out for years and years, especially if you've got the best lawyers and endless money. So they put like a tag on his ankle. I mean, already there, an ex-president that's got a tag on his ankle and a double conviction. Almost unprecedented. And then now they've got him for a specific thing to do with Gaddafi in Libya, of all things. And he was convicted of it and sentenced to 5 years in prison. So what were the actual charges? Let me tell you. He was up on charges of criminal conspiracy, i.e. just whispers behind closed doors with Gaddafi. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If you do this, I'll do that. But rising to a criminal level. Corruption, just the charge, corruption. Misuse of Libyan public funds. What's Sarkozy doing with Libyan public funds? And illegal election campaign funding. Now, he was acquitted on all of that, apart from criminal conspiracy.
Okay.
So his enemies. So here's the two sides of the equation here. Sarkozy and his supporters are saying this is all just lawfare. This is all just my political enemies going after me, and there's nothing there. I didn't do anything wrong. I wouldn't dream of taking money from Colonel Gaddafi. Are you kidding me? That's mental. As if in a million years I would do that. Didn't I get him ousted from power and ultimately murdered in the streets? Me, I took money from Gaddafi, please. Right, and the other side of
because there's never been such thing as a backstab in political history, has there?
Good point. Also, that's the other people saying, no, there's some evidence here or there that how comes your campaign in 2007 suddenly seemed to be really well funded? What's that about? So, okay, he's been up on all sorts of charges, and he was largely acquitted, and a couple of co-conspirators, people that were his right-hand men during his time as president. But he was acquitted of it all, apart from criminal conspiracy. Now, that's quite a nebulous thing to prove, really. What exactly was said behind closed doors, and what exactly... The idea is that... the allegation is that Gaddafi gave him money, literally suitcases full of cash, 3 different times or more, suitcases with $1.5 million in it, another one with $3 million in it or whatever. And in return for that, which Sarkozy then spent on his election campaign in 2007, and in return for that, Sarkozy will bring Gaddafi into the fold of the international community. So he was a bit of a pariah, wasn't he? After...
He put in a good word for him.
Yeah, trying to bring him back into the fold a bit.
Make him look cool again.
So, yeah, make Gaddafi great again. I hate Gaddafi, by the way, just to be clear on that, before anyone says anything. So, he was convicted of this, sentenced to 5 years, and he'll be serving it largely or almost entirely, in fact, in solitary, with 1 hour a day for exercise and all that sort of stuff. Proper hard time. Anyway, after 3 weeks, he was visited by the current Justice Minister, Gérald Darmanin, who's an old friend of his. And after 3 weeks, they said, "All right, you can, we'll let you out.
No harm done.
We'll let you out after 3 weeks." Yeah.
Whee!
Well, actually, it's not quite as simple as that. It's not like he's just free now. They said you can have the sentence sort of suspended, or you can go home, but only until the appeals process is finished again, which may take years.
You can work on your own bench press or something.
Yeah. So if and when his appeal fails, he will have to go back to prison at that point and serve the rest of the time. But for now, he gets to go home to his very pretty wife, who used to be a model, if you remember her.
I do.
Well, of course you do.
Why are you saying of course, Harry?
Because of course you do. If it was going to be anybody, it's you.
So what's the actual story? Gaddafi. It goes back to Gaddafi. Now, I've been fascinated by Gaddafi. Always fascinated by Saddam, right? Fascinated by Kim Il-sung, all these people.
They did it.
I'm a history nerd, so I'm fascinated by them. And so this story is all wrapped up with Gaddafi. Now, the Brits, the Italians, but the French have got a long and storied past in North Africa, right? Particularly the French in Algeria, for example.
Isn't it also Italy and Libya?
Yeah, well, sorry?
Italy have lots of presence in Libya?
They did do, yeah. They controlled it for a while, as did Britain.
Yeah.
I mean, we won the North African campaign in World War II, for example, right? But yeah, at various times, that bit of land that is modern-day Libya has been controlled by the Italians and the Brits. But the French, post-World War II anyway, have had, probably, you could argue, probably the biggest influence in sort of Algeria, Morocco, Chad, Libya, Tunisia, mainly Algeria. But anyway, so Gaddafi does a military coup d'etat in 1969. They had a king of Libya, Gaddafi and his military cadre of his military officers take over. And at first they thought it would be like, he said, we'll open up Libya, we'll make it much more democratic, we'll have socialist economic ideas, but this is like a new open golden age for Libya it will be. But quite quickly it turned out that he was just basically just collecting powers into his own person and sending kill teams abroad to kill any exiled rivals he's got, having people executed live on TV in the middle of a basketball game, clamping down on all his opponents, being kind of a classic example of a dictator, really.
Something you wouldn't really be surprised by.
Yeah. And by the 80s, there's some of his opponents that were murdered.
Stelios finds that hilarious, apparently.
No.
What?
No, it had history porn. So
Did it?
If you go down to the left,
bloody
it says
hell.
history porn.
Oh.
So
I can't explain that. I don't know what that's about.
I think that's the name of
how the eye just spotted it. The trained eye.
tracked straight for that
The
word.
Vince McMahon eye spotted it.
Just quickly run through Gaddafi. By the 80s, he's the Americans and the CIA, George Bush Sr., are accusing him of basically funding terrorism and letting terrorists train in his country and all sorts of things. A discotheque in West Berlin in like 1985 or something was blown up.
Remember
with
Reagan?
US servicemen in it.
Reagan had an address where he was telling the Americans how he bombed Libya for this.
Yeah, Reagan.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, Reagan. It would have been Reagan. Sorry, not George Bush Jr. It would have been Reagan. They wanted to totally kill Gaddafi and tried, but sort of just about missed. Actually, just kind of failed to. Lockerbie in 1988. It was definitely Libyans, because that plane that crashed over Scotland was actually largely full of Americans. 280 plus people in that killed and 11 on the ground. And it wasn't until years and years, like the intelligence services came out very quickly and said this was Libya, this was Gaddafi. Yeah. But it wasn't until years later Gaddafi finally admitted, yeah, it was. So at this point, there's no doubt that it was. So it's a bad dude. There's a million other things. There's another airliner over Nigeria that was
nasty
blown up
individual.
You remember in Back to the Future Part 1, the baddies in that are Libyans. It's like the classic 80s thing that the baddies are Libyans. So anyway, there's Lockerbie.
Don't they still have slave trade?
Well, the country to this day is a complete mess.
Yeah.
I mean, Gaddafi has your classic dictator strongman. There are, like Saddam, there are some bonuses to that. You can usually keep the lid on certain things, but without him, even that is just gone to pot. Yeah. So anyway, in 2007, 9/11 happens, and Gaddafi says, "No, I want to be in George Bush Jr.'s coalition of the willing. I'll give up all my plans to make nuclear bombs or chemical or biological warfare. I'll stop funding terrorism and all that sort of thing. I want to be on your side." And so there was an effort made to sort of bring him into the fold. Like Tony Blair went and visited him. You can find pictures of Tony Blair and Gaddafi walking along. And so a lot of the pressure was on the French to be like, look, you're the main North African country in Europe. Why don't you try and bring him into the fold, right? It's better, for everything he's done over the decades, it's better to have him on side post 9/11 than not, right? Okay, so 2007 comes along, then Gaddafi gets invited to Paris, shaking hands with Sarkozy there, and Gaddafi sets up, it's quite a odd picture to see such a thing. I mean, for years he's like an full-blown international terrorist, like sort of almost on the level of Bin Laden. You know?
It's almost now with what Trump is doing with the Syrian.
Mm.
Yeah. There's his little tent, his shitty little tent he set up on the Elysee Palace gardens.
Why was he living in the tent?
Yeah.
Or was it just for diplomatic?
You can take the man out of North Africa.
Yeah. There's Sarkozy and the Colonel in his stupid little tent. There you go. They let him speak at the UN in 2009. Anyway, as soon as he goes to Paris, he sort of immediately backstabs the European Western efforts to sort of bring him into the fold. Just starts talking about colonialism and guilt and Pan-Africanism and
in the UN.
Yeah, and then
he knew his audience.
And then a couple of years later, at the UN, just rambling on for hours, literally hours, about how terrible the rest of the world is and how he didn't do nothing wrong at any point ever. But of course, in the end, the powers that be decided that enough was enough, and when there was a very shaky period in Libya in like 2011, NATO decide they're going to try and topple him and they start bombing Libya. Actually, French planes took one of the leading roles in that.
Weren't intelligence agencies also funding rebellion movements in the country as well? Ever
since Reagan, the CIA have been wanting to get rid of him, of course, yeah. They just view him as a complete, and never changed their view, really, that he's a complete enemy, cannot be trusted. And if there's a chance to get rid of him, they would. So anyway, by 2011, during the Sarkozy years, so Sarkozy that was supposed to have taken money from him and tried to bring him into the fold, then a few years later is like one of the leading actors in destabilising and destroying his regime, and ultimately Gaddafi was sort of found hiding in a pipe, was dragged out and lynched to death. Okay, so that's it. So that's the story of Gaddafi. Now, just before his regime, like literally just a few days before it completely crumbled, various people, particularly, I won't get into too much of the weeds of it, but there's a guy called Ziad Taqiyuddin, as well as one of Gaddafi's sons, came out and said, "Oh, thanks France, thanks Sarkozy, this is great, this is how you repay us after we gave you millions and millions of pounds to pay for your election campaign in 2007. Remember that dude? Like, come out and say it publicly, openly." And the French, Sarkozy's political enemies in France, as well as the French media, are like, wait, what now? What is that? Is that true? Really? And so in the intervening years after that, after Sarkozy lost in 2012, he's just been in and out of court for years about all sorts of things. So the question is, and I don't know, I've got no special insight, I wasn't there, I wasn't in the Sarkozy inner circle in those years, so I don't know. But the suggestion is that he did take millions of dollars, from Gaddafi in order to pay for his 2007 election campaign and his 2012 failed re-election campaign. Now, whether he really did or not, whether it's all just lawfare by his enemies and it's all completely unfair, I don't know. That's what Sarkozy insists to this day. He's completely innocent. He wouldn't dream of doing such a thing. Didn't I topple Gaddafi? Aren't I the guy? I'm the least likely person in the world to have ever taken money from him. But, well, it got to a court and they did find him guilty, whether that's fair or not, but they did find him guilty of criminal conspiracy. So it's not the end of the story for Sarkozy. He's still just only out until his appeals are done, and we'll see. I mean, even his wife, Carla Bruni, she's in a bit of trouble that she may have tampered with evidence. I think she's going to have a trial of her own, whether she may or may not have, tampered with evidence. I think that's what she's up against. It just seems Sarkozy is just completely embroiled in a legal mess. Yeah. So this whole thing that he got sentenced to 5 years but let out after 3 weeks, that's not the end of the story. That's not. He's just free now, and that's the end of that story. No. It will keep going 4 years. This.
I saw it in the beginning. I said that was quick.
Yeah. So
turns out it's not as simple.
If and when his appeals are finished, I may bring the story back, and there may be some sort of closure on the Sarkozy Gaddafi story. But Gaddafi, even beyond death, is still messing with European and Western leaders. He's still screwing with their program, even beyond the grave. There you go. I find it interesting. I hope other people out there do as well.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.